It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
It will be a day of rants. It'll be a week of rants, actually, but it'll definitely be a day of rants today. There are some fun things to rant about this fine day on the Augmented Reality Podcast. Welcome, everybody. This is your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games and the gaming industry, coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch, and archived almost anywhere you can find podcasts. This is Ash, here with Subsidian and Moontag. As always, hello everybody in the live chat. Mad King, Funky, Ali, no you're not late, we just started. And Arturo's been in the chat for a while and is very excited. So yeah, welcome everybody. Great to see you all in the live chat at this ungodly hour of the night here in North America. But I know it's actually even worse in Europe. Those of you I know who are watching from Europe, it's a crazy time for you right now. So I don't know why you're here, but thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Funky's here for the Biomutant news. Yes, indeed. Funky's kind of our resident Biomutant fan and has even asked to possibly do a video with me giving a counterpoint to some of what I've said on the in my Biomutant review. Hadn't run that by Saib yet, but anyway, that's we might do that if I can find the time. But anyway, he's definitely been talking about it actively on our Discord server, which you can check out and find the link in the description below. Hello, Moontag and Saib. How are you this fine evening?
Hi. Make sure you guys smash that like button. It's looking a little lonely.
Smashy smash. It likes it rough, but if you want to be gentle, I mean, sometimes
Taps are okay.
variety's the spice of life, or whatever they say. Of course, if you're listening on Twitch, talk to us on the chat there as well.
Say hello.
Lots to talk about, and I think Saib is melting from the heat wave, so I don't know.
It's very, very hot. It's so hot.
Yeah, we need to make a heat sink, honey.
You need 3 more heat sinks.
Yeah, we need a couple of heat sinks. I'll make a little fort out of water canisters or containers or something like that.
Here, I was just gonna fill up the bathtub. And stick a fan in the door. Turn the whole bathroom into my cooler.
Sunglare says, my screen says live in 101 minutes. Well, your screen is lying. By the way, it's June 1st. How did that happen? Good grief. June already. Lots to talk about today.
Your screen is quite possibly very dumb. Like a panda. Sometimes pandas get pregnant and they don't know they're pregnant. And then they have their baby and it starts screaming and they go, oh my god, what is this? And then they eat it. They are very dumb.
But they're so cute. How could something that cute be so... Well, hang on.
Took a twist.
Never mind.
Compared to a lizard, pandas are really dumb. So...
Compared to your comparisons are sometimes so random. And yet they just somehow make sense.
This one's from Resident Alien. I'm doing the Resident Alien bit,
which
is still one of my favorite shows of this year or last year or whatever I think it was this year. It's technically this year.
Well, I don't know what YouTube's telling you all on the live chat here, but it's telling me we're starting right on time. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. But anyway, we are here, we're live, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things today. We are going to talk about what to expect from the Microsoft Bethesda showcase coming up as part of E3. We have a bunch of smaller stories as well. Yes, there is a story about Biomutant. Sadly, we don't have a ton of details, but it seemed like a good discussion point. Plus, we're going to make fun of some of the dumbest gaming journalism I've ever seen. And
they really stretched it this week. I mean, it was...
There are two things.
Wow,
so
they're really, really trying hard.
Some of you may have heard of the hard drive joke, but then we also found another article that just is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read about video games. So we'll be diving into all of that.
No. Also, I hate to sound weird, and it's definitely not because I'm suffering from heat stroke, but Didn't we talk about the Bethesda Microsoft thingy on Saturday?
We did, but you told me we were going to talk about it again. So maybe
I did.
maybe that heat stroke is maybe that is what's going on. Well, there's it wouldn't hurt to recap it a little bit again and just talk about. So might as well jump into that right now since we are talking about
sorry.
it.
No, we're reviewing the now I see what I did. So yeah, we're reviewing the Windows Central.
The Windows Central, yeah.
It's their
this is their
Windows
expectations.
Central E3 prediction. So we're just going to kind of compare that with what we talked about on the Saturday. That's what's good. That's what's going on.
Yeah,
It is like 120 degrees right now in Fahrenheit. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Bloody awful.
Right.
All right, June 13th. Reminds me of the first time we sat down.
Remember a month ago we had snow outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also remember 6 years ago now, recording our very, very first podcast in your living room, and it was a similar heat wave, and we were melting and dying, talking about Fallout and drinking your homemade Nuka-Cola. Those were good times. All right, June 13th, Microsoft is kicking off its E3 2021 showcase. So we did talk about this bit on Saturday. Saturday is our Saturday morning Legion, except we did it on Saturday night because of craziness. We have a different type of podcast / live stream we do on the main channel every Saturday, so check that out if you want. You can find the link to the main channel in the description below. But anyway, so we are of course expecting Halo Infinite and something on about Starfield, because of course the graphic, it's not on the screen right now, but it's the graphic I used on the thumbnail today is from the Microsoft their announcement graphic for their event, which is happening on June 13th. And Halo was featured prominently, as well as the planet from the Starfield teaser. So we're definitely expecting to see something from those two games. So what else can we expect? So let's talk about various possibilities. They say, they cover Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda. I mean, we've talked about that a million times.
Things that they covered is Arcane Studios. There's a rumor about Arcane Studios and what they're actually working on.
Apparently, a vampire-themed immersive sim named or codenamed Omen. So now Arcane's got a couple of studios.
Weird.
So they've got Deathloop. They've got Deathloop coming out, but Arcane has multiple studios, so it makes sense they're working on multiple things at a time. A vampire-themed immersive sim from Arcane sounds ridiculously awesome to me. I mean, if they
it does sound weird because it's really not what they normally produce. Like it's just in the vein of like what they normally make, and then what this would be. These are two very, very different games, and
like compared to Dishonored,
I don't know,
you mean?
Normally you don't expect that kind of like mass switch switcheroonie. I don't know what you want.
Well, I guess that are you talking about the immersive sim aspect of it? Because a vampire-themed game would, I think, be right up their alley. They do, the supernatural stuff with the powers, both with, in a sort of more magical setting like in Dishonored, and then in a more sci-fi setting in Prey. So doing something similar but having it vampire-themed actually sounds really cool. Well, I guess my question is, what does immersive sim mean? Because that would be a different kind of game. Like, I wouldn't call Dishonored or Prey or any of the Arcane games I've played immersive sims. But I guess it depends how you define an immersive sim, right? But is that kind of where you're going? Like, that would be a different kind of game?
Yeah, like just their immersive sim versus what they've normally done. It's very different. So it's surprising, but it's not that surprising because, as we know, types of game and game genres are usually made at multiple times. Usually that's just the way that it goes. Part of it is cultural, part of it is competition. vampires something very simple. They come in and out of style every like few years. You know,
Yep.
they're hot, then they're not, then they're hot, then they're not, then they're being made fun of, then they're like the selling the best thing ever, and then again they go back and forth, and it's crazy. It's probably one of the most like it's probably one of the most intense yo-yos in the entertainment industry there is. I think hands down it probably is, as far as like, you know, as far as a specific genre of some type. It's probably the best yo-yo there is, next to like zombies. But zombies are kind of like,
Well, zombies seem pretty consistent to me.
yeah, it's way more consistent, whereas vampires are way more like yo-yoing. Because again, it's like you dress up as a vampire in whatever currently popular one year, and then you go to the party the next year, and it's like you'll go from the, you know, top of the list to the bottom of the list. I know this is a really bad
Well,
example,
yeah.
but it's like it's just one of those things
You
where
go you go
it
from looking all
fluctuates
goth and
wildly.
emo to gluing glitter all over yourself. I know.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
it's like crazy. Anyway, I mean, if it's like this, a Dishonor, if it's like they're describing here, a Dishonored like stealth sim with vampire style powers, I mean that could be really cool. Vampire, that game that came out a few years ago, the vampire RPG spelled with a Y. I was looking forward to that game. I quite liked it. It's not. I mean, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. I would like something with more action as a vampire game. It's a really good, you know, kind of deep RPG though. I mean, I would recommend checking that out if you like vampires. They
Or
say
perhaps Duffy, the Slayer of the Vampires.
the vampires.
Yes,
They
the
say
Slayer of the Vampires, not the Vampire Slayer. That's different. Totally different.
I used that clip in my video about the vampire game. I don't know if you saw it.
Really,
We've heard.
I think that's probably where I remember hearing it recently, because yeah, it's really it's such a good line. The Slayer of the Vampires.
Yeah. Says here,
like,
we've heard some whispers that Wolfenstein 3 could potentially be teased or announced.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I can't remember, because I did the kind of more or less the same bit on our show on the Saturday, and then the show that I did with Max on the Friday. So basically, I said that it's highly unlikely to be out. I've heard the same rumors, and I think it's just too soon, right? Like it's just too soon for it to come out. And apparently they heard the same rumors. So that's great. I feel way better about this now, because I came out and said, yeah, I feel that it's too early. And then to have a bunch of people, you know, basically repeat that like a day later is like, oh, good. Okay. So I'm not crazy then.
It does seem pretty soon after Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah.
But I would like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in a Wolfenstein 3, although, as they point out here, Machine Games is working on an Indiana Jones game, so, I mean, are they able to work on two projects, or did they just crank out Wolfenstein 3 so fast that they can they can now work on another one?
It's like that. I mean, I'm excited for, like, again, I can usually never play them because they're always first person, but I enjoy the story, and I like BJ is a very cool character. He's got, I think they were close to gold with the young blood. I really do. I think they just massively missed a couple of things that just compounded it, right? There was a whole bunch of things that they should have done. They should have tweaked the character personalities a little bit more. They should have, you know, added a little bit more back and forth. They should have, like, toned down the campiness of it a lot, or basically all of it. They should have added some goddamn hairstyles that actually functioned properly. Bethesda is the worst company in the world when it comes to making hairstyles. I mean, Fortnite has amazing hairstyles, and people don't even play it for that. Like, I mean, come on, Bethesda, please, for the love of God, just get somebody in who knows how to make some hairstyles. You have tons of modders.
Hire some of those modders who,
job.
yeah, exactly.
It's atrocious. But anyways, I think that Youngblood was close to being a success. but so many like minor things added up that just made it quite a terrible experience, right? Like on top of the technical bugs, the direction and the art and all that kind of stuff was just, it was just off. I think that, you know,
Yeah.
the sister thing, I think that can work. I really do, because, but I think it has to be done well, and you have to find a writer who can actually write it well. And I
Yeah.
don't think this one was written well at all.
I,
So
I, I
I'm
agree.
excited
Yes.
for what they can do, and I am looking forward to another Wolfenstein one, because I watched JoJo's uh, I want to say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but that's not right. That's a totally different thing. Jojo Rabbit, I think is what the title of the movie was called. It's this really weird movie about you know, this young child who's like, you know, he's a I don't know how much I could say without getting in trouble with the filter, but you've got some Yazis, right? They're all standing around. They're teaching this kids camp, and they're all like, you know, where's the best culture in the world? Now, you know, we're so enlightened and smart and beautiful and brave. Now let's go get together and burn some books. And I can't remember the was it Rebel? I think the actress who portrayed that role was really hilarious. Very very short. Was only in it for like a handful of scenes, but very very like very funny, genuinely funny role. And I think it's such a good comparison to a bunch of people who are like, I'm so enlightened. Now let's burn some books. And the fact that you see this today is horrifying. But yeah, yeah. Yeah, we could get that in the next iteration, and I hope they really make fun of that kind of stuff, because it's kind of getting ridiculous.
We got
Make fun of it on all the sides.
We got Zoe. Oh yeah, the way the Wolfenstein games are great for that.
Yeah.
Youngblood though, which was by the way, that was like Wolfenstein 2.5 for those of you asking in the chat. It was like an expansion to Wolfenstein 2. So yeah, it wasn't number 3. Zoe in the chat talking about the idea behind immersive sims is giving the player as many tools as possible to complete something. So I guess by that definition, you could call Dishonored an immersive sim. Although you can definitely have expanded it more, but you could say that about anything. So yeah, all right. But it's good to kind of have a definition in mind. Thank you for that. All right. So Tango Gameworks working on Ghostwire Tokyo. ID Software finished their DLC for Doom Eternal. So as they point out here, it's unlikely either of those studios will answer or will announce anything new.
Very doubtful we will see anything from that. It's just not something that I think is going to happen.
Of course, we'll see some Halo Infinite, and hopefully they put on a better show than last time we saw it. Of course, Psychonauts 2.
Yeah, it's basically a guarantee.
I don't know much about that series. Okay, Forza Horizon 5 to be revealed at the show. Say they're expecting it to be revealed at the show, and it'll be, really show off the technical abilities of the Xbox Series X. I mean, I'm not all that into racing games, but I mean that might be something you're interested in. They say we also expect a new trailer for Flight Simulator for consoles.
Ooh.
I know we've got some Flight Sim fans amongst our listeners, so that might be something you're interested in. Sea of Thieves might make an appearance. Age of Empires 4. Very curious.
I do, yeah. So Sea of Thieves we didn't cover, nor State of Decay. I think these things are coming. It's kind of one of those like too soon, probably, maybe, I don't know. State of Decay 3, I really think they need another year or two on that at the very least. Just with what happened with their last one, I really think they need to buy themselves a little bit more time. So again, I don't think we'll get that. I think we'll hear something about Hellblade too, because
I would imagine so.
It's one of their most anticipated titles. So even if they don't show a lot, I suspect that they will drop another trailer, because the last trailer that they did, the first trailer that they did for Hellblade 2 was a resounding success. Like that trailer was just nailed everything. It was really cool. It made people like sit up, take notice of the project. And it's something that doesn't overpromise anything the way they did that. So if we get another thing that's similar, I think that's a good thing, and I think that's fine, even if we don't end up getting the game for another year or more. Um, and and I kind of doubt that we'll have that delayed more than another year or two, just because I think that most of their sequel stuff, like their direct sequel stuff, I think that stuff is going to end up coming out and not be as impacted as some of their new titles, right? So.
Mm-hmm. I
And
agree.
That probably includes State of Decay 3. I mean, it again. I wouldn't. I think that one's still too early because I think they started or two after Hellblade. So I would imagine that that's probably 2 years behind the production cycle right now. So that's my thoughts at least.
I agree, Kisuke, that Hellblade 1 was really good, and I regret that I have not yet finished the game. I definitely want to, but time has not been on my side with finishing a lot of games in my library. Now, Obsidian. So, he says here, he or she, I don't know who wrote this, I've been told conflicting information about the possibility of Avowed being at the show. That's...
Everybody has gotten the same inside out information coming out of Obsidian. Right now, you've got, Avowed in the Pillars of Eternity universe, Outer Worlds 2, excuse me, Grounded, and all of their potential stuff.
Yeah. Well, Grounded, they're still continuing to develop, right? Didn't it just get a massive update, or
it's in early development? It's basically like I would say that it's close to the Microsoft variant of Fortnite that you possibly get right now. And in that, I don't mean like, Battle Royale. I just mean like kind of like drop-in game sessions. So I don't know if you want to compare that to the Save the World variant of Fortnite or what. It's part of it is art style is why I'm making that correlation.
Right.
The art style is very somewhat similar, and it is pretty cool. But yeah, it's an interesting game, and I think they've got more to announce there for sure, because that game had an enormous amount of success happen very, very quickly for it, and it's still pretty decently rated amongst games. So I think that I think they probably increased the team that's working on that by a fair bit, because it was really only a very small team that was working on that initially. So yeah, we'll see kind of where that goes, but just overall, I think the game is solid, and I think that'll become one of their focuses whilst the other two games are up in the air. And I said this before, is like, if I would not be surprised if Outer Worlds 2 is canceled. I wouldn't even be surprised if Avowed was canceled and they are in turn working on another project.
Well, the fact that
I wouldn't be surprised if it was the reverse. We're getting an Outer Worlds 2 sooner than we anticipated. Same with Avowed. It's really like anywhere in that cycle.
Could go in any direction. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Now that they are sister studios with Bethesda, it could really go in any direction. I mean, you've got some of the devs of the original Fallout now under the same umbrella as the devs of the later Fallouts, and there was some bad blood, of course, but I mean, does time heal all wounds? I don't know. Let's not delve into that. But anyway, yeah, I think it's really up in the air what we're going to see from Obsidian, but I'm sure we'll see something. So, Project Typhoon, an upcoming open-world co-op action game from a AAA partner studio, may be shown off. That's what this writer says. And apparently it's fairly far along in development and could be slated for 2022. Do you know anything about this one? Project Typhoon. I don't even think I've heard of this one.
No, it's one of these ones that's the same with Project Dragon. Is these are things that there's a lot of rumors around. I could list like 100 rumors on this stuff right now, but all that it's all that is all that is. It's just rumors. There's nothing concrete with any of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's going to be, I'm sure, plenty of third-party developers there with games that are going to be releasing on Xbox. Maybe some surprises.
I would say lots of surprises.
Probably
I would say
not
lots of surprises, and we're probably going to start hearing and seeing more of the, the planned kind of expansion of Microsoft. So yeah.
I don't think we'll be seeing CD Projekt Red there. Although anything could happen. But this kind of is crossover to another small story I wanted to mention. They're still saying Cyberpunk's going to live up to what they promised, and about half of the team are still working on the game. About half of the team. Now, the other half, I think, will quit the company. I'm exaggerating slightly there, but they've lost so many people, it's kind of mind-boggling. They're hemorrhaging. I think the only company that's hemorrhaging key employees faster than CDPR is Blizzard right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, whatever. I don't think anybody really cares about Cyberpunk right now, so let's just go back to this. So, they mention a whole bunch of games here. I do think there's going to be a lot of surprises. I think it's going to be a good show. I think that Starfield's going to make a strong showing. My prediction is I'm starting to lean fairly heavily towards Starfield being a 2021 release. I mean, no guarantees, obviously, but just thinking through the logic of it, as you've described, that Cybe over the past few times that we've discussed it, I mean, they do feature it on their announcement graphic, subtly, but it's there. It's not hidden or anything. They don't have a big Starfield logo, but it's there. And that this is going to be their first big show after acquiring Bethesda. So they're going to bring something big. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
And I mean, you'd be crazy to think that if this plan has been in the works since 2019, you've got to imagine that they were like, all right, what do you got up for release? Mm-hmm. What have you, not kept your, what have you been keeping the lid on? Like that kind of stuff. And then them deciding that, such and such title that they're working on, dropping over 2 years later, once the deal and everything is finalized, it just makes sense. And again, it could be another 18 months late, like all the professional game journalists are saying. 18 months ish for a release. Could be that. I find it exceptionally hard to believe. I really, really honestly do. But it's not exceptionally hard. I believe there's like a 20% chance that it drops in 18 months. The majority of my gut says that this is coming sooner rather than later, because again, it's part of the key art. It's part of like the big drive. If you do the math coming from Todd Howard himself, there's been a team working on this in some capacity for over a decade. They've been doing numbers crunching, like system generation, for coming up on 6-7 years now. Like the fact that this game is had so much behind it, the fact that almost all of the visual leaks that we have right now for the game were based in 2018 and they all look pretty decent back then. I mean, again, I'm just looking at this going, how could they delay this another year and a half to 2 years? Like how? Like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It depends if you mean that's their planned strategy, or like delays can happen.
Yeah.
But it would make sense that they are aiming for this year or next year.
Yeah.
Like that really makes sense.
And again,
There's
it's
some comments
Bethesda
from...
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Moon.
Yeah, there's some comments from Twitch from Jagos. Hi. He says, "We care on the Discord, but not here. They really let people down with upper management BS. It's go big or go home. Could they have postponed Halo for Starfield?"
Doubtful because it's two separate studios working on it. Like Halo is completely separate from Bethesda. But
Yeah. No, I mean these are majorly different studios, and basically it's obviously different studios. It's been different studios for a very very long time. But this has absolutely nothing to do with that.
yeah,
But
like Starfield. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, two space sagas. I mean, they kind of is. They fit nicely together for an event like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking. I really do want a good Halo game. I want Halo Infinite to be good. So I'm kind of glad they delayed it.
Jagos does mention something that I think I mentioned on Saturday. There is a considerable amount of technology behind the new Halo game that could potentially have been added to Starfield to make the game overall better. And it is a system that they do need to add. It's one of those things that would be nice if they could, it's obviously one of those proprietary technologies that if they manage to pull it off in the way that I think they're trying to pull it off, like this is a game changer for open world games. And that's what we've been hearing for the longest time, is that Microsoft was working on this butterfly system to really make the universe and the world feel so much more alive and different every time you play it. There's just so much differences happen. And again, if they could pull it off, it's going to be amazing.
Yes, and that's really what they need to showcase. I mean, yes, they need to show us really good graphics, and they didn't. Like Funky mentions, Halo was ready; it just was not next gen looking. And when you're using it as a launch title for your next gen console, it needs to be next gen looking. But also, I mean, good graphics do not make the game. So they really need to show us. Like I just felt I could have been watching a remaster of Halo 1.
Remember that Rome game that they launched the last generation with?
Yes.
Does anybody remember that? It had amazing graphics, but the gameplay was just empty and void of anything. But it was visually amazing, and everybody was like, "Oh, sorry, that was definitely my foot hitting the table." But yeah, they definitely had this this is going to look the most amazing ever thing that's ever been made, and then they did it, and then it was the gameplay and the overall story was kind of meh at best. So yeah.
Did you bump your mic or something? Because you sound a little far away now.
Yeah, no. I moved my foot and I sent my a little table flying. So
I see. Okay, so you're just rearranging.
There's also a comment from Zoe in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead, Moon.
Yeah, Zoe in the chat says, "No dual wielding and playable elites, two of my favorites, so I just can't find myself interested."
I mean,
it
surprises me.
It was pretty.
If there's no dual wielding, did they just not show it, I wonder? Or has it been confirmed in some way? Because that would really surprise me if there was not dual wielding. Did they remove dual wielding in the later Halo games? Something in my brain is pinging me.
I can't remember. I can't remember for sure. I think they did remove it at some point. I think they removed it because I think that the whole grenade thing and chucking stuff. But then again, I don't know. It might be
yeah.
It might be just that there's some weapons that are naturally dual wield, so it's not actually dual wield. It's just it's temporary dual wield. Man, I can't believe that some of the dual wielding games that have been out there, that we just didn't get. Like the progression of the direction of the technology that was pushing that stuff in the past. I showed Mooney a game from years and years and years ago, that incorporated dual wielding, and you had a melee weapon and you had a gun weapon, and you could train the gun weapon at ranged targets whilst attacking melee targets with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
The combat was just very, very, very complex, and it was very like it was good. And then I mean we talk about another great example of that would be Jedi Knight Academy, right? Where you had all these moves and you had all these cool things that you were capable of doing when it came down to um, you know using two swords versus the other ones, and the moves and the combos were so much more different. It was such a really good system. It was really good direction, but they the gaming industry as a whole walked away from that and really zoomed in and focused on like the Twitch like shooting type thing, where it's like just sniper rifle kills basically, and like burst rifle, like you know 3 headshot taps in a row, and all this kind of stuff where combat was engaged at a lightning pace, and it was all based off Twitch, and it wasn't based off of like skill or camouflage or movement or anything like that. I mean, I remember some of the old like um keep messing up what this game was part of. I want to say the Quake tournament or championship, but I think I'm thinking of it's the one where you could parry missile shots and weapon shots back to your enemy. So if you were, it was still quite twitchy, but it's not necessary. It wasn't necessarily like the end of the world if the other person shot first, right? Because if you were going like the more melee build, then you just reflect the shot right back at the person who shot it.
Mm-hmm.
And
couldn't you do that in Jedi
combat.
Academy though? I think there's been
you could do that in Jedi Academy. Not with like you could deflect like blaster shots, but you could also deflect. You could also use force push, blah, blah, blah,
yeah, to push the
to
missiles
send back
yeah,
missiles and railgun stuff and a couple like a handful of other things. And it was like again like Jedi Academy and well, I mean even the Jedi Knight, the Outcast one, the first one. I mean these games really brought back this really far more in-depth combat system where you had so many more options. You had wall running, you had all this cool stuff that was quite deep. And then the closest thing that we got to that again was Titanfall. But then Titanfall was just screwed over again and again and again and again and again and again to the point where it's just a shame. And right now it's even like right now that I can't think of I cannot think of a sadder thing. I really can't think of a sadder thing than the loss of the Titanfall community. Essentially, did you hear what's happening to it not now? Just very quickly, I know it's a segue, but like right now, it's being held basically at ransom by a whole bunch of hackers, and the company responsible for it is just like, meh, we don't care.
Wow.
Like, we don't care. We're not going to invest the time, the money, and the resources to program it in. Like these hackers have got it so that as soon as like a streamer joins the game, they kick them. Like they boot them from the game. If you're streaming the game, you immediately get booted. And it's like, wow. Like
and
it's nightmarish.
That is brutal.
It's absolutely nightmarish.
And that's one again when games as a service go wrong.
Yeah, exactly, right?
All right, everybody. You are listening to Augmented Reality, the podcast, and we appreciate all of the conversation in the live chat. If you're enjoying the conversation, want to keep it going after the show today, please join our Discord server. You can find the link in the description below. Whether you're listening on Twitch or on YouTube right now, or after the fact, listening on any of the audio only platforms, you'll find a link to our Discord server where you can join up. You can find lots of awesome people to chat with, people to game with, people to just talk about various things with. We don't only talk about games there. There's a variety of topic rooms. So it's a very friendly and open and fun place. So check it out. And a shout out.
Zoe Moonlight, thank you so much for wanting to do a super chat.
Yeah, no super
Um,
chats on this channel, sadly.
Guys, we're still growing this channel. It's we're still trying to get this up to snuff.
This was it's a bit of an experiment. It's going pretty well. But anyway, yeah, we really we appreciate the support. I mean, if you want to support the show, if you could share it around to people, and of course do the liking, commenting, subscribing. That's all stuff that can help us a lot. And of course, check out the main channel, which is much bigger and has a big variety of stuff. Want to shout out Bailey Tyler. Says, hey guys, it's good to be able to catch you live from all the way down under. Welcome. Got quite a few Australians who listen in. Glad to have you all.
It's actually why we do the show.
Yeah.
At this ungodly hour for us, which is it's kind of a comfortable time. For
I mean, this isn't the worst time to do a show like the
Aussie fans.
Yeah, most of the North Americans are sleeping. A lot of you Europeans still manage to listen for some reason. Do you not sleep over there? Do you not need sleep in Europe? But yeah, like we do have we have New Zealand audience. We have people in Australia, Hong Kong. That's one of the I'd love. We've gotten several messages from people in Hong Kong, and it's really meaningful because they especially commenting on the comment, us speaking up about the situation over there. So I'm glad that was meaningful for you. If anyone's listening from anywhere in the world, let us know. If you're lurking in the chat and you want to tell us where you're listening from, we'd love to hear it. All right. Also, so Sunglare, in response to me talking about the time I don't have to finish games, Sunglare says, at least you finished Village. Not only did I finish Village, I have finished Village 4 times, and I'm currently on my 5th playthrough because I'm going for all the achievements. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But, I also got the triple S rank on one of the Mercenaries stages. There's going to be a video about that, and so, yeah, it was an achievement worthy of our channel name. Anyway, having a lot of fun with that game. And yeah, don't know what I'll play after that. But, because I will get sick of it eventually, I'm sure. All right, some other stuff too. So some other... we should talk about the Biomutant thing first, then a couple of other quick stories, and then we'll get to the ranty stuff about just the pathetic state of game journalism right now. So, if you listened to my Biomutant review, you know that I felt like it needed a lot more time in the oven. It had such great potential, but felt half-baked in a lot of ways. Now, interestingly, we do have Funky in the chat who has also, has played the game a lot and has really been enjoying it, and acknowledges that it does have many problems, but still having a lot of fun with it. So, anyway, apparently the devs have, well, not apparently, it's right here. The devs have announced they're working on an update that has a pretty broad scope. It is going to include bug fixes and changes based on community feedback. So, now they've got some other quotes here. Don't know exactly where these come from, but they say the update will include work on some of the community's most persistent bugbears, like the pacing of dialogue, narrator settings, difficulty settings, video settings like depth of field and motion blur, loot and enemy tuning, as well as sound and combat. So the ones that jump out at me there are definitely the pacing of the dialogue, but the loot and enemy tuning, I think definitely needs some work, and that'll be a very good start towards turning it to a more solid game. Plus, I think, the world just needs more content. If they found a way to just flesh it out and fill it with more going on, more, side quests and characters and NPCs that aren't just, random encounters. And, I'm not saying it doesn't have any of that, but the world just felt so empty. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it would be okay to have a mostly empty world, like having a world that feels empty. If that's an artistic choice, that's one thing. But you do have to have pockets where stuff is going on and interesting things happening because it's a game, and it's not just a wilderness simulator, right? Now, then if you love just taking your animal character and running through the wilderness, maybe it is a game for you. Like I've said, some people are, some people are really enjoying it. Well, here's Funky says, there is content later in the world later on, but if you're not grabbing me within the first 10 hours, let alone, or if you're not grabbing me within the first 2 hours, let alone 10 hours, it's not a game I'm going to recommend for people. Because it's just like when when someone recommends a show to me, it's like, oh, but you just have to watch the first 6 episodes and then it gets good. No, thanks. I'm not interested. Like, why? That's just my personality. I'm not interested if it's not going to grab me right away. If there's no value to watching those first 6 episodes aside from just setting up the next bit of episodes, it's really not that interesting to me. So that's, maybe it's a personal quirk of mine. I don't know. Like I said, I tried to be fair in my review. I tried to say, that there are things to love about the world, and there definitely are. But we'll see. Like, I do want a more fleshed out game. So, as Kisuke says, yeah, part of cinematography is captivating the audience from the start. Exactly. Like, I'm okay with the series having kind of a lackluster episode here and there, but for the most part, it's got a, and I don't really know what to say, because there are times when
Jagos in the chat says, in Twitch chat says, first impressions are the most lasting.
Well,
yes,
that's
exactly,
part of it too, right? And if I review a game and I say, trust me, guys, it gets good later on. Well, if it doesn't get good later on, if they don't like it later on, then I've wasted a whole bunch of their time. So that's kind of where I stand on it. If it doesn't, so I not that I don't think there's any value in playing Biomutant. There are things I really enjoyed about it. But again, just not something I can recommend yet, but I'm very curious to see what they do with it. All right. That's about all I had to say about that. So let's talk about, a couple of small things. Owner of a ROM site represents himself in court and gets obliterated. Well, I don't know the wisdom of representing yourself in court, although I think in an ideal system you would be able to represent yourself and still get a fair outcome, but that's not how it works, unfortunately. But in this case, I mean, he was definitely out of line. He had all kinds of ROMs uploaded to the site, and he had a paid premium access for unlimited downloads. So he was definitely violating copyright. Now, he's now on the hook for over $2 million. I mean, I don't know how much he made from this site, but it doesn't seem like he... I don't know. I don't know how they calculate these things, but anyway, he's got to pay over $2 million in damages, which is not good considering he's currently unemployed. But this whole thing with ROM sites has been an interesting topic for many, many years because, if you can, they used to say on these sites, these are legal to download as long as you own a hard copy of the game, and then you can download the ROM legally and play it in an emulator. Now,
yeah, it was
that's
kind
never
of those, like, catch-22, right?
That was never actually the case. Nintendo never actually said it was okay.
Yeah.
But should it be from an ethical, like legally.
Oh, absolutely. I have a CD that cracked because of poor construction. Now that CD contains, it's one of three, and I need that one to be fixed in order to enjoy the full product of the thing that it is. And it's like, if I can't do that, if I can't get a replacement because the company doesn't even sell the CDs anymore, let alone like will give me a new copy, just a digital thing or anything like that. They refuse to give it. It's like, well, yeah, I deserve to get it from somewhere else. I have the product, it's sitting there, it's damaged, and just because it's damaged, does that mean that it's like, so long, sucker? Like, thanks for your business, buy it again, ha ha ha. It's like, I really hate that kind of mentality.
Yeah, it is a problem because everything, the medium always wears out if if you have the media on a physical medium like a CD or a videotape, any of those things. Now that everything's digital and you have accounts where you just download it all. I mean, one of the upsides of digital distribution is if my computer blows up, my Steam library is still there. I can download it all onto a new computer. So that's one of the upsides of the digital distribution that we're doing. Did I say downside? That's one of the upsides. The downside, of course, is that if Steam ever goes away, everything goes away with it. And, but then that's the question. Like, if I bought all these games and suddenly Steam's not there, well, shouldn't I be able to get them, access them somehow still? And what's the obligation of the developers or the services to grant that to me? And, what if the developer doesn't exist anymore? But the publisher can still say, no, you can't have it. Like, yeah. It's a murky, muddy issue. And I mean, frankly, I don't understand what problem Nintendo has with people playing. They do tolerate it to some extent. There are plenty of streamers who use emulators, especially when they're playing hacked ROMs. Like the Mario ROM hacking community is very active. Like, there are dozens of Super Mario World ROM hacks that are basically brand new games built on Super Mario World that are as good as the original, if not better. And they add all kinds of things to them, this custom programming and stuff in some cases, and in some cases they just use the original building blocks to make a new game. This is, and in fact, I think that's what inspired Nintendo to develop Super Mario Maker, because they saw people wanted to do this. But they tolerate it to an extent, because when you're doing a ROM hack, the people that make them, they don't distribute the hack. What they do is they distribute a patch for the ROM, and that they can legally get away with. But the person playing the hack still has to obtain the ROM. And I'm sure Nintendo knows they're doing this. So clearly they're tolerating it to some extent. But yeah, I mean, this guy trying to make money off it, though, that was dumb. That was really dumb. So now, does he deserve, is it $2.1 million worth of dumb? I don't know. But anyway, that's that story.
There's some comments from Twitch from Jagos.
Yeah.
Heck. Oh wow, so much. This is just Nintendo maintaining their monopoly. Legal access would stop piracy. And they also do send Nintendo ninjas against their customers.
Yeah, they do. But it's really, I mean, yeah, if they gave us a legal way to access these games, that would solve it.
Well, Funky in the YouTube chat says, it's better to have a lawyer that knows the judge. As long as you own a hard copy of the game, it's because you have a license of the game, but the problem is the license is for you to play on the original hardware, not inside an emulator.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yes, it is legally murky. Like I said, when they used to say on these websites, I remember downloading like Nintendo ROMs way back 20 years ago, and it would say, as long as you own the original ROM. or the original game, cartridge. And I'd be like, yes, I own all 6 Mega Mans. Of course I do. But anyway, they used to say this on those sites. It wasn't actually true, though. Like, it wasn't actually legal to do that. But again, the question is ethically and morally. Like, if I have a Nintendo system sitting beside me with that game, and I choose to play it on an emulator with a ROM instead, is that really doing anything actually wrong there? Anyway, but legally, it's a different story. Legally, yeah, you can't do that. All right. Our story is political, Far Cry 6 narrative director says. I read through this article. We've talked about politics in games a number of times. It sounds like... Now, Far Cry 5, of course, we were very worried about it being political. This is a game about a revolution in a fictional Caribbean country. Very reminiscent of Cuba, but drawing influence from other countries as well. But, I mean, reading through this, it sounds like they're approaching it the right way. Obviously, you're doing a story about a revolution. That's a political theme. There's just no way around that. But they said the conversations and research, okay, If anyone is seeking a simplified binary political statement specifically on the current political climate in Cuba, they won't find it. And he acknowledges it's a complex subject that should never be boiled down to one quote. So I don't think that, at least, if all this is accurate, it sounds like they may be approaching the politics in this game the right way. And not, shoving a particular narrative or perspective relating to modern politics down your throat, but, addressing certain political themes through a story. And I think that's the right way to do it. So, just wanted to highlight that quickly because I found it mildly interesting. Just going to double check if should have brought this up earlier, but I forgot. E3 2021 is going to have its own awards show. Great! Fantastic! Another pointless awards ceremony that's going to be even more pointless than the Game Awards. Editors from games websites IGN, GameSpot, PC Gamer, and Games Radar will be selecting from titles that appear during E3's 4-day event, with the results of their voting being announced during the awards show itself to decide what are the most anticipated games of the event. Who gives a shit what these websites think? Seriously.
Yeah, what about asking the gamers? Hello?
No, you can't do that. They might pick the wrong thing, Moon. They might pick the wrong thing.
But
Yeah, I know.
Good
it's
point.
so
Good
stupid.
point.
I'm having a moment of you've seen this cat meme? It's this really derpy looking little cat, and the caption is, "I cannot brain, I has the dumb."
It's not you that has the dumb. You has the smart, and you're trying to fit the dumb into your smart brain, and it's just not working.
I can't brain it.
You can't brain it. By the way, there was another story that some of you asked us to talk about. We're not going to be talking about it tonight, but Moon has some interesting things to say about the Horizon Zero Dawn developer talking about why video game female characters don't look feminine. And you have some strong opinions about that. And we will be talking about that on Saturday, though, and I think Moon's got a bit of a rant that she's going to go into. She ranted earlier. It was very entertaining. All right. So now on to one of the dumbest things I've seen in such a long time. I honestly cannot believe that it has descended to this level of dumb in the gaming journalism space. I can't believe it. And it all centers around this article. This article is from a satirical website called harddrive.net. It's a satirical news website, sort of akin to the Onion or the Babylon Bee, but it's all about gaming news. And this article is actually not new. It's from 3 years ago, August of 2018. And as you can see, the headline here is IGN writer excited to start playing the game that he just finished reviewing, which is really funny in my opinion. That's just.
Now, I mean, this tweet is how many years old, right? Like,
well, the tweet.
They originally posted it back.
The article is 3 years.
Whatever.
The article's 3 years old, but he just now the Twitter account for this website just recently retweeted this, and the meltdown from games journalists is so funny, and I'll show you the.
Excuse me, sir. How dare you make fun of us? Don't you know the protected class of elites?
Yes, exactly.
That are over you, you peasant. How dare you? It's like, and this is like this is making fun of things that they have been busted doing before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially with stealing the work of content creators. They just walked up and stole the stuff and then go, oh yeah. You can't do anything about it. Isn't that funny? And then they get caught and they get, lambasted in by the other press in full view of their public. And then they're like, oh, we're sorry, guys. It's like, well, you did it before, so you're gonna have to smile and nod at the very least the next time you're put into that situation where somebody's making fun of you for stuff that you, excuse me, stupid hiccups, that you actually did do.
Well, and just
it's a mess.
Actually, yeah, and read this article. It's very funny. I mean, not the funniest thing I've ever read, but it's pretty funny, pretty poignant commentary. Now, I don't care if you like this sense of humor, or if you like this article or not. Quite frankly, you're allowed to like or not. You're allowed to find something funny or not find something funny, as you will. We all have different senses of humor. But the meltdown, and I'm going to show you the Twitter thread in a minute. And if I could not believe it scrolling through this, I watched another video highlighting it, and I was like, no way this is real. No, the top replies to the tweet are unbelievable. So what happened is, this article is from 2018, but the Twitter account just retweeted it out recently, and that's where the meltdown started. So this is the message I have for games journalists, though. I was thinking about it earlier, and I just had to write down some thoughts. So here they are. Dear games journalists, time to grow up and get over yourselves. Seriously, after all of the lies, after all of the characterizations of gamers as toxic and misogynistic, after all the fake controversies about phobic this and somethingist that, after years of us doing your jobs for you only to have our info borrowed and reported on with no credit given, now you're upset because a comedy writer made a joke and hurt your fifis, and the people you've been shitting on as you write this empty, self-righteous dreck that you spew out every week are now laughing at you. And we're supposed to come to your defense and coddle you, protect you from criticism, as if your job is so much harder than anybody else's. But the timing. Games journals don't need this while standing up to their bosses about human rights. Well, that's a nice convenient excuse, isn't it? And I'll get into what that's all about in a minute. But how about this instead? You do what the rest of us do. Recognize that your job performance and your moral ideals are in two separate categories, and being excellent in one doesn't justify doing poorly in the other. And it doesn't make you immune to criticism in the other. Okay? I find it really funny that you all think you're such a cut above, entitled to privileges and rights that the rest of us plebs don't deserve just because you have a blue check mark or a corporate logo behind your name. I laugh a lot harder at that than I laughed at the joke you're offended by. And believe me, I laughed pretty hard at this article, because it's pretty damn funny. But I honestly cannot believe how fragile you've become. Maybe it's time to descend from your ivory towers and come live amongst us commoners for a while. Toughen up, relax, regain your sense of humor. Learn to laugh, maybe even laugh at yourself a bit. We do that. Now I realize that probably seems like a magical ability to you. Just like our ability to ignore the comments section if we're feeling down, or to ignore the joke if we don't like it, or to treat valid criticism as an opportunity to learn and grow, rather than a crippling affront to our snowflake hearts. In conclusion, get over yourselves, no sympathy, talk to me when you got real problems. Okay, had to get that off my chest.
P.S. from Mooney, please learn maths.
And somewhere in there I hit a button on my mouse that is making my cursor scroll really slowly, so let's see, there I got the tab up. So, this is unbelievable. The Twitch responses to the tweet of this article. Delete this. Who is this guy? This is
he's a blue check mark, so
he's a blue check mark. The irony of it, people are getting up in arms about this because IGN is apparently they're dealing with a situation now where their employers pulled down an article that was expressing support for Palestine. Now, we're not going to get into the Israel-Palestine thing, but there's a lot of apparently.
Well, I mean, we could. I mean, it's the fight's only been going for what, like,
a
few thousand years.
I don't.
You could tie it up by the weekend.
I just don't want to. I don't want to muddy it up. Now,
longest fight in history. Ongoing.
But there's a bunch of IGN employees now apparently taking a stand against their employers because they want to show support for Palestine, and the employers don't want the politics or that in their articles or something to that effect. So there's this internal controversy going on at IGN, and people are expressing support for the IGN employees who want to do this and take a stand for human rights as they as they're putting it. Now, obviously, all of these people are entitled to their opinions, but the irony is they're mad about IGN pulling down an article, and now everybody's telling this guy to pull down this article, which is clearly a freaking joke.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and it's pretty funny. Not only is it a joke, it is one of the mildest jokes I've ever read.
Well, it's the reference to JoJo that I made earlier. It's the same ideology. It's the same mentality, I should say. It's the same mentality of people running around going, "I'm so much more superior than you. Now, let's celebrate how enlightened I am by burning a bunch of books and which is books as in like statements or articles or content that they don't approve of." And it's like, let's burn it all down. It's like that's the first sign that you're a totalitarian, like, psychopath, because if you weren't, you'd want to take on the ideas and the concepts and the articles and the stuff on somewhat equal footing and take them apart at their merits instead of just calling in big hitting buddies to show up in the middle of the night and bust some kneecaps. It's like one of those makes you a tyrant, the other one makes you an intellectual giant, because you're able to take an argument, deconstruct it, showcase and educate people as to why it's wrong, and then rebuild it. It's like you can always tell when you're not dealing with intellectual giants, you're dealing with authoritarian giants by saying it's my way or no way, or I'll destroy you, I'll have your job, I'll break you down. Again, not based on the merits of the argument, but based off of the emotionality of how much they hate you. And this is, it's always so rich, right? Like, it's so rich when I see these people like how dare you, blah blah blah, delete this. And you look into it, and these people do not stand for anything that is unpopular. They find the most popular concept that's backed by the most number, backed by the highest number of people on whatever platform they're speaking on, and then they take that platform. And it's always different too. That's the thing. It's different from where you go because, like, it's Pride Month, so there's that. And again, you'll find all these people going, "Oh yeah, it's Pride Month," and then you won't hear them talk a single word about all the companies that have all these different divisions all around the world, but half of them aren't celebrating Pride. Why not? Because, well, if they did, they'd lose a lot of money in where they're advertising at with some of those countries. And so you don't hear a gosh darn thing about that there. And worst of all, is when the games actually suffer. Activision and Blizzard have these games that, oh, the character is this, the character is that. Here, yes. In other countries that we may, that shall remain nameless, oh no, they're not that. They're not, they're not standing up for what they are. They're not mentioning it. The story is curtailed. I always found it funny and incredibly sad. So not funny in like the happy funny way, just horrifyingly sad funny in the horrifyingly sad way, where it's like League of Legends, like they have these competitions in certain countries, and they turn off all of the women, all of the female characters in the game. You cannot play as any of the female characters because that is not acceptable.
That's gonna.
And do you see any of these blue check marks that are going, stop insulting me? I have weak fifis. Do you see any of them standing up and saying, "How dare you? I've got balls. I can do that. That's unfair. That's unjust. It's discriminatory, and it's disgusting." And so is all that behavior when you go, "Oh yes, look at so and so. They're this, and they stand up for themselves in America." But when we go over to these other countries, they don't stand up from there. That's BS too. Yeah. And it's very unhelpful BS. And again, a lot of this stuff, like we one of the biggest games journalists in the world has us blocked. We're a tiny little channel that talks to a very small and awesome community about really, about just games, and then occasionally some of this heavier stuff. And we're a tiny place that that hires more that employs in one way or another more Aboriginal, more disabled, more trans, and more different racial people groups than most of these big giant corporations do per capita. And these guys have the gall to block us and say, "I don't like your opinion." It's like, you're the biggest hypocrite there is, and it's disgusting. And it's not just, I'm not just talking about us, I'm talking about the other channels that these people have gone after like rabid wolves. As somebody raises an opinion that they don't like, and they'll descend upon them, and then they'll do it, and then they'll stand back. It's really funny. It's like I've heard these people trashing other YouTubers, and they're like, "Oh yes, that horrible piece of garbage," and then they find out that piece of garbage is he's an African American gay person, and then they go, "Oh well, and they try and backtrack so fast, right? It's like you didn't take 2 seconds to investigate who you were trashing and throwing under the thing. And we've seen that again with so many content creators. Sophie,
actually, some of the minority people who have the wrong opinions, though, they go after the hardest.
Yeah. They go after the hardest on there too.
If you don't have,
they called Mike Pondsmith horrible names when he said, "Do not tell me who or what to think," and it, like, you don't have the right to tell me what I should and should not be happy with on a daily basis. Kindly keep your mouth out of what I need to be doing, which is, I think, is a great standpoint, because it's very libertarian in the concept of like, like you just leave me alone, and I will say what is on my mind, and you say what's on your mind, and we can have a discussion about it if we need to. Don't walk in and say, excuse me, you're supposed to do this, this, and this, and you're supposed to, hate on this person, hate on that person, and ignore this person and ignore that person. You have to do everything that we tell you to do. Why? Because you're a rich New York, trust fund kid? Like, really? I find it so shocking and disgusting that a lot of these people that make the biggest amount of noise are the most privileged people on the face of the goddamn planet. It's like
It's true.
Most of these people make six figures, live in the most expensive city in the world to live in, have one of these really cushy, extremely well paid jobs, and that they're also sitting there demanding that yeah, again, I don't want to get political, but they're making all these demands of the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, have you even gone hungry?
Well,
a day in your life.
Forget going hungry. They're like the mentality of the people here who are saying,
Mm-hmm.
you can't make this joke. Look at this Twitter feed. The mentality of like that these the critics and the journalists are now a protected class. We can't criticize them. You can't make fun of them. Mike Futter here. Nope, you're funny a lot of the time. This isn't one of those times. Besides harassment of journalists, IGN's team has stood up for human rights against their own management recently. They don't deserve this ever, but especially now.
Oh, he got ratioed to hell.
Oh, he's been, and this is, by the way, I pulled this up several hours ago and haven't refreshed it because just in case this all disappears, I wanted to make sure we had it for the show. But yeah, no, he's been ratioed hard. The whole thing, all of this has been ratioed. Like this, delete this. 12 likes, 309 replies.
Yeah.
Means
no, you know when you're doing that you've royally stepped in it. Again,
but look at this one though. Look, they get paid too much for. I don't know what she's replying to. They get paid too much for me to feel sorry for them. 900 likes. I love this. Punching down isn't funny. I don't know if that's a joke. Some of these are joke responses. There's some of them are satirical and sarcastic. Someone failed to read the room. It's like, shut up. What, like?
It's such arrogance.
What does this even have to do with the issue that's going on at IGN right now? Just because he mentions IGN in the article, oh, they made a joke, and so you can't deal with this right now. They can't take.
A joke
they're
that was,
dealing
by
with
the
so
way,
much.
A joke that was like made way before the current crisis of like their current like whatever.
Yeah. Read the room again. What? Who the hell are you? Like what does this mean? Read the room. So some controversy's happening at IGN, and so what am I supposed to do? Go scour the entire internet and make sure there's not going to be anybody who might be offended? There's nothing going on that might. What is he supposed to do? Wait until there's no controversy at IGN before releasing the. It's a freaking joke. It has nothing to do with what's going on at IGN right now. There's references in IGN of a fiction. I think a fictional IGN reporter because I searched the name of the guy from this article. It says IGN writer Austin Rivera. I couldn't find an IGN writer named Austin Rivera, so I think it's a fictional writer. But you could insert the name of any. You could insert Kotaku here. You could insert any of the big ones. Any of those ones that's going to be, picking the most anticipated games at E3 in that stupid awards show. Unbelievable. Like, I cannot believe that these people have become this fragile. This is such a mild joke. I could not believe that I'm still in shock. I love this. This picture's really funny. At the time, it was a very specific dig, but bringing this out in 2021 just perpetuates a harmful view of critics. Guess what? Critics should be criticized when they do a shitty job. And yes, we know access journalism is a thing, and we know that sometimes they steal other people's work. It's not saying every critic is bad. I'm sure there are good, well-meaning people working in the industry. But where they behave badly, people should be criticized, regardless of what human rights things they're starting up for. First miss in a while, and you manage to hit the umpire. You stay up all night thinking of that one. That's real funny. That's real funny. One harmful piece out of several thousand bangers is an incredible run, but this ain't it. They keep saying this ain't it. Like, this ain't it everywhere in this, and it's cringy as hell. I don't know what they're referring to. Uh-oh. Gonna get banned for this image. But this guy gets it. I'm sorry, but the irony of IGN employees asking an outlet to take down an article is insane.
That's hilarious.
This person says, I wish I didn't waste precious minutes of my life reading this. You know what? If you don't like the article, you don't find it funny, that's fine. I don't care. But that's not the issue now, is it? So, copium. Nice. The tears of blue check blog writers' as sustenance. Anyway, we've gone on way too long about this, but I mean, the state of things where they can't take the mildest of jokes. Like, what is this industry coming to? And then this is we'll just cap off with this. This is completely different. I need that Monty Python thing. And now for something completely different. But it is still just I had a good laugh reading this article. This is from The Guardian, so it's not a gaming outlet. But this article is written about video games from someone who clearly knows nothing about video games. Doesn't know nothing about video games. She knows negative amounts about video games. She has negative video game knowledge, and you will see as I read this. Video games have turned my kids into wage slaves, but without the wages. Gaming is task-driven, repetitive, and often frustrating. Just like having a job, childhood isn't supposed to be so serious. Clearly, you've never even asked your kids why they enjoy playing these games. So she talks about, okay, there's a lot of games going on in her house. The 13-year-old, sometimes in conjunction with the 11-year-old, plays Fortnite, a game mainly about shooting people. The 13-year-old, also sometimes in collaboration with the 11-year-old, plays Genshin Impact, a whimsical open-world environment game. Whatever the hell that means.
This is one of these things where it's like if you don't know,
why don't you find out?
Yeah,
like if you don't, like, it's worrying to me that you don't know what your kids are playing. Like, that's worrisome to me. It's like, ooh, wow, yeah, that's not cool.
Also, maybe do the slightest bit of research. Like, maybe find out, watch them.
I think it might be part of the joke when it comes to the article, because it's like her husband plays Hitman, and then she plays VR, which is so funny because it's like we can't even afford a VR kit.
Well,
like, she's walking around with a VR kit. She's not even a gamer. She doesn't even know what Genshin is. You know, conversely,
well,
but
she doesn't even know what an open world game is, and she could. Yeah. I mean, you make a good point, because she could watch her kid play Genshin Impact for half an hour and get an idea of what an open world game is. Oh, I can go anywhere and find stuff to do and quests and things. But she also, so her husband plays Hitman, another shooting game with very densely layered storylines.
But apparently, they just skip it because it's all about the shooting.
The aim is to leave everyone else dead in a laundry hamper. You've clearly spent less than 2 minutes watching him play the game. And I laughed out loud when I read this. I was like, this is the most ridiculous. So, seriously, this goes on for a while, but she's already demonstrated she doesn't have a clue what she's talking about. Observing all this, I feel like the manager of a high-tech sweatshop. Everyone is locked in concentration, shouting over headphones at other people who may or may not be in the same house. Are they getting... And you know, She says, I know what I should be worrying about. Are they getting enough fresh air? Will they become addicted? Is this a useful life lesson to find meaning through shooting others? But what is she actually worried about? What I'm actually worried about is that this is way too much like work. Task-driven, repetitive, monotonous, but immersive, often very frustrating. It's exactly like having a BS job. The best thing about childhood, the bit that makes up for people constantly telling you what to do and where to be, is that you have those years outside of the productive economy where no one thinks to measure your worth by the net value you create. Where all you have to do is grow and be endearing. Okay, so and she's comparing playing video games to having a monotonous, repetitive job. Again, clearly demonstrating how out of touch. And this is just... The reason I wanted to highlight this is because, I mean, we have, within games journalism, we have people who know about video games but are garbage at writing about them. And then it seems like there's nobody in mainstream media who actually knows what a video game is. And yet they write about them. So, have you heard of fun? I mean, if you're learning to play a sport, you're going to do a lot of monotonous, repetitive things as well, as you're learning to get good at it. How many thousands of layups do you think a player in the NBA did as a kid learning to play the game? Because they loved it, they wanted to get great at it, and so they did it again and again and again and again. Are you going to say the same thing about that? What about playing the piano, doing scales and arpeggios and practicing the same line of a song dozens and dozens and dozens of times?
It's kind of like you level up.
It's kind
of
in
a game.
It's kind of like that. Now, I'm not saying it's the same like learning an instrument and playing a video game. One is leisure, one is kind of creating art, but it's not a perfect comparison. But the general thing is, when you enjoy a hobby, when it's fun for you, you do it repetitively to achieve something or to get better at it. Anyway,
I love how this article ends with like the solution to wondering, oh, are they getting enough fresh air? Is I'm going to play my own game. And I love that the game that she chooses is a nightmare job.
Exactly. She chooses her own game. She starts playing Five Nights at Freddy's VR. Oh, man.
Literally, you're playing as a night watchman or security or whatever. And it's horror. So she's in a, dark atmosphere, in basically a scary job. And I'm like, I thought you were worried about your kids playing stuff that were too much like jobs, and you choose one that is a nightmare?
Good point. I hadn't made that connection, Moon, but that's really that's a really good point. But also, this sentence here is one of the funniest things I've ever read. The genre is indie horror, which I think means it's like regular horror except with bears and a more sinister atmosphere. Yeah, that's what indie means.
Right. Oh my gosh. Oh, clearly she does not know how to.
She has got to be trolling us with this.
Must be. This reads like a joke.
Is she actually this ignorant? Does she not realize how funny this is? I'm trying to see, I mean, she clearly writes scintillating stuff. Christina Hendricks. We were critically acclaimed and everyone wanted to ask me about my bra. Okay, then. I mean, yes. Hard-hitting journalism here. Hard-hitting journalism.
Right?
I don't know.
Clearly logical leap into gaming.
I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that that maybe she was trying to be funny with it. I don't know. That's the best I can come up with. But anyway, that's the end of the show for today. Any final thoughts, Moon and Saib?
Nope.
No.
All right. Well, I hope that last bit gave you a laugh. That was why we included it. But other than that, hope that you enjoyed the show today. Please do slam that like button if you haven't yet. We really appreciate that. And, of course, subscribe for more content. And check out, come subscribe over on the main channel and come check out Saturday Morning Legion. It's our other live stream that we do where we talk about news, also incorporate live gameplay, live artwork. It's a good time. It's a variety. Like, we've had no two shows that have been the same, so it's been a lot of fun. Terra K says, to be fair, I've often joked that MMOs are like a full-time job where you pay them. Some games do feel like that, and when a game feels like that, I stop playing it. That's what happens. All right, everybody. Thank you again for the great conversation in the chat. And if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms this podcast goes out to, don't forget you can subscribe to our YouTube channels, the Triple S League and Triple S Podcasts, where you can catch our shows live and catch all kinds of other content as well. Thank you especially to our Patreon supporters and channel members and Twitch subscribers who help to make this content possible. You've seen their names appearing in silver and gold at the top of the screen. Check out the Patreon, see if it's interesting to you. We've got some high-res artwork from Moontag over there, a few other goodies for you. Trying to beef up what we offer to those folks who inexplicably think that we are worth supporting financially. We love you all very much, but also just our entire community. Check out the Discord server. It's a great place. Thank you all so much for joining us again, like I said, and we will talk to you again very soon.